Uh, all right, talking to Ryan today, and hello, how are you?
I'm incredible. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right myself. And so last year we talked our top five Blu-ray releases of the year, but this year I couldn't really do it because I didn't really scoop up enough Blu-rays.
Right.
But I did see a lot of old movies, which I know you did too. And that's the thing people do as well. They're top five old movie discoveries of the year. So that's what we're doing.
And a few of mine are related to really great Blu-ray releases that came out this year. So I will probably always come back to that. That's a big thing for me, as everybody can see by my background. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a good year for discoveries, good year for film, and kind of an incredible year for physical media.
Yeah, okay. Sure. Give us like the state of the union for physical media. You are disconnected.
Oh man. I first of all, I feel a sense of hope for the first time in a long time. And I don't mean to say that like I've been depressed about the
Mhm.
hobby or the industry in general,
Mhm.
but there's this like revolt against streaming that is finally happening. And I feel like it started with the strikes, actually,
Mhm.
the writer strike and the actor strike this year,
Mhm.
because people started to notice there's not much content. And then after that, one of the big things is, and we saw a little more of it this week, actually, that some of these, like Max or Peacock, that own some of these titles outright, they're starting to license them to other streamers. So people are realizing, wait, what's the point of me subscribing to Max if I can watch the Max titles on Netflix? I can just go to Netflix. And so people seem to be suddenly going, I don't like this. This just feels like flipping channels on cable again, and I don't want to do that. So I feel like people are finally starting to turn back to physical media quite a little bit, actually. And I'm
Oh,
genuinely a little more upbeat on the next few years than I was even a year ago.
damn. And you started a magazine, right?
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, I got not that I
Hey.
was planning on hyping it, but I had my show last night. It happens to be right there. Yeah, June, I started a magazine that it was digital only for the first
Hmm.
handful of months, but it has grown every month. The first month it was 6 pages, and now we're the one that we're about to push out. It's close to 30 pages. It's
Wow.
exploded, and yeah, we're running a print hopefully every month now, and I'm getting contributions from all over the world. I have ongoing articles from people. It's been weirdly life-changing.
All right, cool. All right, so I figure the how we're gonna do this is you do your number five, I do my
Sure.
number five, and count it down. So your number five.
I have what's going to be probably a little funny because a couple of these are really obvious. Like many of them, I don't understand how I never got to see them before. And my number five is the first of those. I saw the Coen brothers, Bart and Fink, for the first time this year, and
Oh, okay.
I don't know how I never put it in.
Yeah.
I didn't have the Blu-ray until I think last year, so I should have watched it then. But it's about writing, and I love writing, and it's about Hollywood. I love Hollywood films, and goddamn, this movie is magical. It's
So good.
surreal and
Yeah.
silly and sweaty and very old school Hollywood, and it's got one of the best performances from John Goodman I've ever seen, who's one of my favorites. And John Turturro's amazing, but it's like the pinnacle of absurdist Coen brothers mixed with these actual deep thoughts and like troubling scenarios. And damn it if I didn't love it immediately. Like
Yeah.
everything about this movie, it feels so somehow at home. Like I kind of want to be a part of this universe, but also I hate everything about it, so keep me far away. And I don't know how to juxtapose that properly, but it was just a blast. And if you've never seen Barton Fink and you like some of the more mainstream things, this might be like the good next step in the weird direction for the Coen brothers,
Mm.
because it definitely gets a little weird.
Yes. I think last year I saw the Hudsucker Proxy for the first time, and that's a lot of fun.
Yes, it is. That one definitely doesn't get talked about enough either.
No, no, definitely not. So my number five is the movie Thirst, which
Whoa,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I like that one a lot. I just saw it like the other week, and when I'm on Tubi and I see something that Vinegar Syndrome or Seven or someone put out, but I don't want to pay for it.
Right.
It's like I don't have to think. I'm not. The browsing stops right then and there. I'm putting it
Nice.
on, and I love cults. secret societies, conspiracy, like
Of
the
course.
smoke-filled room sort of vibe. I love the somewhat realistic approach to vampires in the movie. The cast is great, of course. David Hemmings, Henry
Absolutely.
Silva. You can't go wrong with them. And the guy from Patrick, I don't remember his name, but
Yep.
Patrick from Patrick. And I love the score. It's just so broody and it's like mental health broody. I don't know.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of Scanners. It's like the audio. It's like an audio. It's like audio schizophrenia almost. It's crazy. So it just gelled. All the pieces came together and totally worked for me.
Yeah, this is a good one. This came out from Severin quite a long time ago, and
Hmm.
it's been so long. I wouldn't be surprised if there was an upgrade eventually from somebody because
Hmm.
this is like one of the real early Blu-rays.
It
So
deserves a
I'm
4K, right?
is there?
No, it deserves
I'm
one.
Oh, it definitely deserves one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely deserves one. And this is one I could see a lot of people finding it if it got a really nice 4K again because it kind of went under the radar that first round and
Hmm.
this one's pretty good
I
and
really like
this
it.
one
Yeah.
is very cheap during the Severin sales. So if you are into
Mm.
physical media, something, a couple times a year, I think it's on their site for less than like $13.
Oh
This
yeah.
is a very good release.
Oh yeah. In June, people can scoop that up on the cheap for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's your number four?
Number four, you mentioned Vinegar Syndrome,
Yeah.
and I had to have at least one from Vinegar Syndrome
Yeah.
that came out this year that I'd been meaning to see for years, and I'd heard about this for such a long time. And we're in the physical media land, at least, we're living in the era of Asian cinema taking over everybody. I mean, Shout Studios this year, they've put out like 64 Shaw Brothers films
Crazy.
in one year. It's ridiculous.
Crazy. Yeah.
Um, but early in 2023, Vinegar Syndrome released a VSA of the film Burning Paradise.
Yeah.
Uh, Burning Paradise is a wonderful uh, action-filled comedy adventure movie that mostly takes place in this weird underground lair that's just disgusting. I mean, there's a room just full of dead bodies. There's scantily clad women. There's people fighting on bridges that are on fire. There's these random hand-to-hand scenes that are just immaculately choreographed. The story's really fun. The acting is surprisingly good for a movie like this. It's that perfect level of they're taking what could have been a very poor B movie very seriously, and
Mm.
now it's just a lot of fun. And I loved this movie through and through. If you like Asian cinema, if you like things that are from like the early 90s and have that very really nice like rich set piece design,
Mm.
this is a really great one to dive into and it's got a stellar release. Could not recommend this one enough.
I totally agree. I have the Blu-ray myself, and I love Ringo Lam. He
Yeah,
actually he studied film production in Canada. I don't know if you know that.
I did. Yeah,
Yeah, at York University, which is Toronto or just outside of Toronto, whatever. Um, yeah, I love that movie. It's so dirty and
it
sort of
is.
cynical. Uh,
Yeah,
and it's just characteristically Ringo Lam in that way. I almost put it in my top five as well, but my number four is Sonny and Jed.
oh, I don't know this one.
Okay, so um it was reviewed on the Video Archives podcast,
Ah,
which I've been thoroughly enjoying. I listened to every episode of the first season, and it's also on that Netflix documentary about Sergio Corbucci, Django and
oh
Django.
sweet.
Yeah, so that's how I first heard about it, and then Quentin Tarantino talking about that, and then him, Gala, and Roger get like really
Yep,
in deep with it. So it's Sergio Corbucci and stars Thomas Milan and oh my God, Susie Kendall, the lady from Straw Dogs. That's her name, right?
I believe so.
I hope so. People can fact check us. But so they're basically just like a very dysfunctional couple. Like he's a jerk, she's in love with him. They argue all the time, and it's like just as good as Django or The Great Silence or Companeros, but I never heard of it. Uh,
Right.
it totally needs a Blu-ray 4K soundtrack, 5 disc set, whatever.
Mm.
I was just this is one of two movies that I learned from that podcast, and I highly recommend that podcast and certainly this film.
I'll have to talk to my Italian contact because this sounds amazing, and I love Corbucci. I was just talking to him about Corbucci a couple weeks ago. Actually, it's Corbucci was a big discovery right around when that the Aero Django controversy happened
All right.
2 years ago, and I dove straight in and watched a bunch of the Corbucci stuff, and he is I swear he is the better Sergio. Like I know a lot of
Ooh,
people might come for
controversial.
me, but I feel like he's overall the more overall talented Sergio.
He's got way more
Uh,
movies
yeah,
and they're
that's
more
true.
violence. So if
Yeah.
that's what you're looking for sure.
Well, that might be why I like it then. Uh,
I wouldn't go
uh,
that far, but he's definitely well positioned as the second most important Sergio in this spaghetti western genre. That's
that's at least a good ranking then. Uh,
yeah.
so I've got two criterions on my list, and I'm going to stagger
Okay.
those. Number three, I'm going to go with one that has been a very obvious pick for a lot of people this year because he's had a couple films come out on Criterion this year. He's had a theatrical film.
Hmm.
I got to talk about After Hours. This is the first time I've
Oh,
ever seen After Hours.
nice.
This movie is like maybe perfect. Griffin Dunn in this is uh I don't even know where to start. Like the movies that fall in that one crazy night genre are trying to be After Hours in the worst possible ways because
Hmm.
After Hours already did it and it's already done it way better. Griffin Dunn has the worst possible night that you could ever imagine. Nothing goes right. He hits the best cast that I've seen in a long time. Some of the most off the wall characters. They do everything exactly right that you would want them to. If the stuff is awkward, stuff is borderline scary, stuff is relatable. That's the biggest thing with One Crazy Night movies. A lot of the time it's like, what the hell? But this it just seems like yeah you're having the worst possible luck and the movie's amazing and it doesn't feel very Scorsese and in a year where we get something like Killers of the Flower Moon and
Hmm.
people are maybe talking about especially the latter half of and maybe the middle quite possibly the most getting a little self-indulgent and a little too long.
Okay.
This feels so lean compared to a lot of
Oh
the
yeah.
Scorsese stuff. It's 90 minutes of just the best way to tell this story possible and it's a masterpiece. I'm like embarrassed for us that it was withheld from so many people for so long and it
Hmm.
was so hard to see. It's not like a lost media, but this is one that was genuinely hard to come by for most people for years and now it's out there on 4K and it looks incredible.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. I'm a big fan. Yeah, right before I started Killers of the Flower Moon, I was talking to a buddy. I said, "Are you ready for the new Scorsese miniseries?" I
Yeah.
do think though, unlike The Irishman, though, it is very gripping throughout. The
Yeah,
Irishman, I was definitely lulling. Like my interest was
yeah.
low. Yeah,
I definitely was not bored during Killers of the Flower Moon.
yeah.
However, the moment I left, looking back, I went, I probably could have cut 25 minutes out of that second act and not
Mm,
lost any part of the story.
fair enough. Um, so my number three is a documentary from about 10 years ago, The Act of Killing.
Nice.
Yeah. Have you seen that one?
I have, and in fact, I've got it literally
Oh.
right behind my head right here.
Show the people.
Ta!
Who put that out?
Draft House Pictures years ago.
Okay, okay. Yeah. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed it in a very somber way.
Yeah.
It is quite intense. The other one he made, the Look of Silence, I think that's what it's called. Excellent as well. But I did like have like maybe a week where I preferred that one, but I really got to go for the Act of Killing. Just the you know, to reenact to get guys who did a genocide to reenact it,
Yeah.
and that's the only way that they could sort of dawn on themselves because they're going to die, not in prison. Um, for them to get some comeuppance is satisfying. It's just incredibly well done, like documentary. I really enjoyed it. I wrote a paper on it too earlier this year. Uh,
Nice.
uh, so yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Really good documentary. It was crazy that it took. I remember when it came out. It was a big deal. but
Yeah.
for whatever reason wasn't in the mood. So make yourself in the mood. Watch the Act of Killing.
And I would say if you get a chance, look up the entire catalog of Drafthouse films if this is appealing to
Oh,
you. Because
oh, cool.
oddly, oddly, their stuff kind of felt like of a vibe, which is really
Mhm.
odd because they're very, very different as far as genres. They curated very well, and it's been rather sad that they just don't exist anymore. So
Ooh.
if you're into the act of killing, they put out some other great ones. I really enjoyed like I Declare War came out. Did you ever see that one?
No, I don't think so.
I Declare War is a bunch of kids playing in a forest near their houses, pretending to be in this battle with like the neighboring kids,
Uh,
except the moment they start pretending, real weapons appear in their hand and they show like battle damage and everything. And it's amazing. It's not like this wholly unique movie, but it's the best way I've ever seen this done. And it's done with like rocket launchers and stuff like that. It is so much fun. Love that
that's
movie. But yeah, Draft House Films put out a lot of great stuff.
all right. What's your number
Okay.
two?
I was gonna stagger my criterions, but I'm gonna go
Oh,
through the somber side, just like you did with the act of killing.
yeah.
This was gonna be my number one, but I will put it here with yours and say if you've never seen Bogdanovich's Targets, you really should.
Yeah.
I saw that for the first time this year
Mm,
and was blown away.
mm,
I had an opportunity. Somebody had a streamer or something a few years ago that I could have watched it, and I just ran out of time. But this is another one that was pretty difficult to find for a few
mm,
years, and now this year it got a release from BFI in the UK and Criterion in the US. And the BFI actually, if you're region free, might be the better release to get,
mm,
or if you're over in the UK because it's got a way more extra features on it. But this movie is about a seemingly normal gentleman that lives in the
mm.
suburbs, has a girlfriend or wife, and just starts buying some guns and kills some people at his house
Mm.
and goes on top of a water tower and takes some people out. And then we end the movie at a drive-in theater. And this movie is harrowing and somber and terrifying, but also it feels very much in that 1950s and 60s, like wholesome, very white suburban
Right.
Hollywood type of neighborhood. And so it's juxtaposing this gross demeanor of this individual against this super clean cut background. And as an individual, he's clean and very like respectful to people around him, unless he's murdering them. And it's such a well done first feature from Bogdanovich that I just could not stop thinking about this for many days. And the worst thing is that it's so prescient. There's so many things in this movie that we, as a society, should have learned about, and yet here we are. And I have two kids in elementary school that are facing lockdown procedures every couple months just to practice what happens in case somebody comes into their school. And it's terrifying and ugly and awful to watch, but also incredibly important.
Definitely, it's a great movie. I haven't seen it in many years. I did though enjoy reading this year Easy Riders and Raging Bulls, and apparently Peter Bogdanovich wanted to sort of continue down the lane that he'd created with Targets, and
Right.
he wanted to do like maybe like a Hitchcockian sort of thriller in like London, I think it was. So it would have been really interesting to see him go down that corridor and become like this like very film literate genre
Yeah.
filmmaker. And I love the early stuff of Peter Bogdanovich, of course. It's great, but it's kind of one of those coulda shoulda woulda interesting
Yeah.
scenarios. And yeah, did he just die this year? Or was it this year or last year? I don't quite
I f-
remember.
I feel like it had to have been this year because we were
Yeah.
talking about with the last picture show, I think
Mm,
around then.
yeah. Well, anyways, he's a classic. My number two film deal is a George C. Scott movie, and another one that I got learned from the Video Archives podcast. It's called The Last Run. Have you seen
Nice.
that one?
I have not.
Oh, it's really good. If you like your existential 70s gangster movies,
Who
you really
doesn't?
right? I had never heard of this movie, and and that was a sin. And I don't think it's on Blu-ray yet, or maybe it's got a DVD. I don't think I'm really not aware of a Blu-ray or 4K of this release, and that should be solved. So he's basically playing this elder statesman gangster. Has been out of the game for a while, but his family's all gone, and he's washed up, and he's just kind of like chilling out in Portugal with his cash and not really doing anything. He's adrift, and so he takes on another assignment, and this is supposed to be his last assignments. And he's a getaway driver for these. I don't know. It's like a couple. They rob someone or whatever. The fella is played by Dario Argento fans will appreciate this. Tony Musante.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, and he's quite a jerk, and it does kind of have that 70s generational thing with the greatest generation and the boomers, but it looks great. It's a beautiful movie. It's very angsty, lots of dread within, and yeah, it blew my mind. I showed it to a couple of people, and everyone loved it. And
Nice.
the thing everyone says is, how come I've never heard of this movie?
It's a good question.
Good
I
one.
got, I don't know if I've heard of it even.
I know nobody has, or not many of us have. It's one of those movies. It was like it just kind of came and went in the
Right.
70s, and
Hmm.
you just see a title on IMDb. Who knows if it's good or bad? You probably just won't watch it. You need
Yeah, I mean that's
Tarantino as a
true. It's not one
champion,
of those catchy titles that you
right?
remember immediately.
Yeah.
All right. Number one for
Yeah.
me. I had a really interesting year with animation.
Oh, cool.
For me, like Deaf Crocodile, the stuff that they've put out this year has been
Yeah, they're cool.
legendary.
Yeah.
They're incredible people.
Yeah.
We've got some really good studio catalog titles that have come out that were
Yeah.
animation. We got a lot of focus on brand new animation that has come out. I loved a couple of the animated films that dropped this year. But for me, my whole September was surrounding one filmmaker in general, and
Mhm.
I loved Don Bluth when I was a kid.
Okay.
Don Bluth, for those that don't know, he's the one that did An American Tail. He did, uh, I don't want to name all the big ones necessarily, but like Anastasia, Secret of Nim. He did The Land
Wow.
Before Time. He did Pebble and the
Damn.
Penguin. These are all great.
Yeah.
I had agreed to be on a podcast to talk about every single film Don Bluth had ever directed. And I somehow, because of when I was born, I had never seen The Secret of Nim. And
Okay.
I loved all of the stuff that I had seen from him. And I said, well, I got to see this. It blew my damn mind to watch this movie. The animation in this movie is legendary. It's the first movie that he and his group of animators that fled Disney to start their own company made together. For those that have never seen it, and I'd never read the book either, so all of this was a surprise to me. But it's about a group of animals that live in this farmer's yard, basically, and there is a family of mice, and the young mice family member is sick, and he has to be moved, or he's going to be mowed over and murdered, essentially. And they have the father figure go try to find some people to assist, and they find out that the area that they're around, there are people that have disappeared and people that have been killed because of testing on animals. And
Oh.
this movie is dark. It is well animated. It is genuinely scary in a few scenes. It is, for when it came out, which is very early in the 80s, it is doing revolutionary things with animation that Disney wouldn't do until like the late 80s or early 90s.
Wow.
And it looks better than many of the like the actual hand-drawn animation that would come out for years. This movie took me completely by surprise. If you've never not dive, if you've never learned about Don Bluth as a
Mhm.
person or what he's created, this is a really great place to start. I don't think it's his best film, but man, I had one of the best times just diving into a one director cinematography this year through animation. And the biggest thing with two young kids, they could all watch them with me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was such a perfect time. I loved this movie.
Oh, that's great. So mine is maybe the polar opposite. Step five.
Love it.
It's a Pier Paolo Pasolini film called Salò, 120 Days of Sodom. I love the contrast. So
Carry on.
like I said with Thirst, I love secret societies, cloak and dagger,
Yep.
smoke-filled rooms, conspiracy theories, little tinfoil hat stuff. Um, I had it kind of culminated into seeing this movie because I read the book.
Right.
And if you think the movie is messed up, and it objectively is, the book is even more intense. It is trance inducing. I would read it on the bus and just kind of like be blanked out, just couldn't believe what I was reading, what was going on. And the craziest thing about it is it's really a journal and it's an invitation for you to do the same thing. So it would be like if Jeffrey Epstein basically wrote a book documenting his greatest hits, and then encourage you to do the same thing afterwards. The stuff, and Pasolini is like saying his thing about capitalism and socialism with all this stuff. And I don't really want to weigh in all that. I'm the movie mystic. I'm not really telling people what to think out here.
Right.
Um, all I'll say though, in terms of power in the least amount of ideological way that I can say is that if that this tale in the book in the novel form or in the cinematic form reinforces to me if you let powerful people do anything, they will do everything.
Yep.
And it's perfectly clear in this tale, and that's why I think it is of utility because it's so revolting.
Yeah. This is a great polar opposite of the secret of NIMH.
That's what I
I
was
will leave
thinking
it
when
at
we were
that. Yeah,
talking.
this movie's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's one of those sacred cows for a reason.
Yep.
And if you do like the film, I highly recommend the book. But I recommend that, but take that with a grain of salt.
Trepidatiously.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that was fun, man.
Yeah, this is perfect.
Yeah, lots of fun. And so, what do you got coming up in 2024? What can people expect from Disconnected?
Far too much. The last year since we did this has been weird. Life has kind of exploded for me. I'm still doing my live shows every Thursday night to go over all the physical media announcements of the week. Every Monday I post a interview with somebody from the industry. I've done a couple semi decent directors recently and a lot of people in the physical media industry. But then beyond that, I started the zine. This is to go with my Patreon. If you sign up at one of the levels or above, you get that for free every month digitally. And then I also started a production company this year. I've been working on
Okay.
extras. I've been doing a bunch of audio commentaries and visual essays for discs. I'm producing some discs for some companies now and doing
Wow.
what I can to just stake my claim in the world and see if I can make a positive improvement for that. And we've only had 3 titles announced so far this year, and we have like 16 more coming in the next few months. So
Uh,
there's a lot happening behind the scenes.
Damn, man. Well, stay tuned for all that. And I gave you 2 titles.
Yeah.
The Last Run and Sonny and Jed.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna ask my Italian counterpart about Sonny and Jed to see where we stand on that because it sounds fun.
Oh, hell yeah. All right, man. Well, thanks so much. Hopefully we'll do this again soon.
Thanks for having me back.
My pleasure.